Hey, what's up, everybody? And thank you for listening to Operation Agency Freedom, where we are bringing you top secret advice from the world's most badass digital agency owners. These amazing men and women are sharing their stories of how they have built 6, 7, and 8-figure digital agencies and how you can too. My name, of course, is Chris Martinez. I am the CEO of Dude, where we help digital agencies by giving them the people and the processes so they can take on more projects and scale profitably. Today, I am joined by Chris Williams, CEO of Senthold and Elite Agency. Welcome to the show, Chris. Great first name. Glad to have you on.
I was about to say the same thing. I love hanging out with the Chris's. Chris's are the best.
Oh, yeah,
And man, what a cool podcast. Like, I didn't realize how much of an impact you guys are having. I just love being here. Thanks just a ton for letting me even have the chance to hang out with you guys. This is super fun.
Oh, man. I don't know why I didn't have you on earlier, because I know we started chatting. Well, we met through the Facebooks probably 6 months ago. And then I was like, oh, man, I haven't had him on the show yet. So I'm very excited to get into your story because you were one of the few agency coaches who actually also runs an agency. So you don't just talk the talk, you walk the walk. So I'm excited to hear about that story. But as we start off every show, it's always about the roundtable discussion. And there's so many cool stories that we could talk about with you. Why don't we start with the 10,000 miles on the skateboard?
So I love skateboarding and skateboarding since I was a kid. And as soon as I could, I kind of got off of the, skateboarders are a fringe community anyway, right? So, but then there's the cool skateboarders who can do awesome tricks, like in loading docks behind the Kroger or the grocery store. But for me, I never really got good at that. So I started longboarding.
Yeah.
And then I started snowboarding, and I just love everything on a board. So I've put in an enormous amount of miles, just literally commuting on a longboard. And now, as a grown up with money enough to buy toys, I have a really cool powered skateboard with big tires. We go 30 miles an hour on that thing. Oh my gosh, I can't get enough boards.
That's awesome.
I can't, let me just say this for people who are listening. If you want to get into biking, walking, running, skateboarding, riding a tricycle, being able to be on the ground out of your car and listening and smelling and feeling the town you live in is a whole different experience. So get out there and play.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So I know that like adventure in general is like a big part of your lifestyle, which is really, really cool. Talk to us about some of the adventure traveling that you've done, and not just by yourself, but you're towing around 5 kids too. So tell us about some of those adventures that you guys have gone on together as a family.
Absolutely. So if you can hear the noise in the background right now, I'm actually outside while we're doing this podcast interview because I love being out. And my kids do too. We have 5 kids. They're age 13 to 20. So Jill and I travel the world with these kids. I work less than 30 minutes a day in my agency because I love the efficiencies, but it's allowed us to just go and be. And we've been all over Europe, we've been all over the world. But some of the best things we've been able to do, I'd say, are scuba diving. We've kind of ventured into that whole other planet that's underneath us. Big open water dives in 3,500 feet of water deep with sharks out of cages, just getting to see the real world. There's so much out there that we can do. And man, anytime you can take yourself, your friends, your community, and let them experience another culture, another people, another way of living, way to worship, way to talk, way to play, way to shop, it just opens your mind up, And adventure is a fun way for us to have an excuse to go do something, but it's really the people we connect to that make every trip memorable.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And being an immigrant myself now in a foreign country, because I live in Mexico, I've gotten to experience another culture in a way that most people are not able to do. And I'm sure you've gathered that through your travels as well. So I want to say this, like the dream that you are living right now, or the life that you're living right now, is essentially the dream life that so many agency owners have. What was kind of like that pivot point where you realized, or where you had built the business so that you were like, I can travel, I can go everywhere that I want? Or was it always like this?
Oh no, it wasn't always like this. Oh my gosh. The year Jill and I got married, the first year of our full first 12 months being married, I think my tax return says a little over $7,000 on it.
Nice.
We were just flat broke, and we went through many years like that of just trying things out. And what the pivot point is, I think, for many people who get to live the way we live, is really just the dogged determination to be idealistic about what you want and not give up.
Mm-hmm.
And I know people say don't give up, keep trying so often, and it's kind of cliche-ish, but it's true. If you're just having a hope and a pie in the sky kind of dream about what you want to accomplish, but you're not willing to work, then yeah, it's not going to work out. But if you're willing to just keep experimenting, keep trying, keep like absorbing podcasts, reading books, hiring coaching, doing whatever you can with the time and budget you have to get better, it works. And the more help you get, the faster it goes.
Yeah. You know, one of the big things that I've recognized just from traveling, as well as living in Mexico, is how much cheaper it is to live in other countries too. Like Americans just kind of take it for granted that everybody else has the same living expenses that we do in the States. And that is not the case. I mean, we are charged the highest prices for pretty much everything out of all the people that are on the planet. And so if you really wanted to go live on the road and be a digital nomad or just live in another country that you've always dreamed of, it's a lot easier than one would think. You know, like what's the longest time that you've spent in another country, in a foreign country?
6 weeks, or our typical travel schedule is 4 to 6 weeks because of summer schedules with kids. We got to get back from school, stuff like that. So,
okay, gotcha.
But yeah, we've experienced the same thing. You can take my family of 7, Jill and I plus 5 kids. You can take us to Disney World for a week or 10 days for the same price. You can go, like for instance, this past summer, last summer before pandemic, we were in Europe, going from northern Scotland down to the Greek Isles, just wandering our way through for the same cost it would have been for us to go to Disney for 10 days.
Yes.
It's crazy how much cheaper you can do things in other places.
And like the thing that drives me nuts is when people like they save up all year and then they go spend, you know, a weekend in Vegas and spend, you know, $3,000. I'm like, you could have easily gone anywhere else on the planet and had a true life-changing experience, but instead you decided, you know what, I'm going to go waste all my money on the craps tables and drink $15 margaritas. Like that just baffles me. So anyways, so awesome, man. Well, I love hearing your stories. I'm sure you've got a ton more, but let's talk about the agency side. And one of the things that I mentioned earlier in the show is that you do agency coaching, which honestly, there's a lot of agency coaches out there right now. But the other thing is that you run an agency too, which there's not a lot of people who are coaching as well as running an agency. So really quickly, give us your intro as to how you got started in this industry. And then eventually we'll get to how you started the coaching program and how you're doing both right now.
Great questions. So I start like most folks do in the industry. I wanted a digital creative agency. I loved operations, loved human resource, wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. So I started telling people I was open for business in all kind of categories. And I took every freaking client imaginable, right?
Yeah,
like
did you have a background? Did you have a background in designer development?
No, not at all. Just I think I'm a business guy who just loves entrepreneurship, and I happen to be a little bit creative.
Yeah. Okay.
Creative enough to be dangerous, where I want to try to make a logo, but I probably shouldn't. That kind of guy. So I was taking all kind of clients, doing all kind of work, just whatever we could get. And then I started learning and reading and following people's advice on niching down and really picking one specific client group to go after, to be an expert there, right? And of course, I was scared like everybody else. Oh, I know I'm going to miss so much business opportunity. But no, what happened is what they say will happen. All of a sudden, I was able to bring in really high dollar clients in a very specific niche that allowed me to really simplify and customize my workflow and a little bit of staffing help, like from a VA. And then all of a sudden it dawned on me, oh my gosh, if I keep going down this rabbit hole, I'm going to get really dialed in systems. I'm going to get really dialed in staffing. They're going to know exactly what to do and not have to bother me with questions all the time. And I'm going to be able to really create and make a difference in these people's lives because I know exactly what they need right now. That right there took my work hours. When I really started anchoring in and promising and committing to Jill and my family that I was going to change things. I went from 16-hour work days down to 4-hour work days in less than 3 months. Just by dialing in who I was prospecting for, only committing to a workflow that was easy to replicate, and only teaching a staff that workflow.
So and at that time,
my income doubled in that time period too, by the way.
That's awesome.
I had no idea it was possible.
So at that time, who were the team members that were allowing you to reduce your time and increase your pay?
At that time, I was working way too much and barely making ends meet. And we hired a VA from the Philippines because that was the thing I'd been taught to do on a podcast I listened to.
Huh?
And she was amazing. Like it worked. And
What were some of her responsibilities? Do you remember what some of her
just basic admin? She was doing calendaring and emailing and helping me just not do the stuff that was so easily trainable that I was spending a lot of time on, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you and I probably didn't communicate in real life, you and me, for this podcast. My team worked with your team. All I'm doing is showing up here.
Yeah.
Because podcast interviews, as you and I both know, are very standard and easy to replicate the setup process.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the experience we create for our listeners is different, but the setup process, inviting guests, right? Things like that are easy to hand off. And so a VA that was out of country to help me just take care of some of the work instantly within a week, I realized, oh my gosh, this person's better at this than I am. They're faster. And all of a sudden they're better and faster at this than I am. And all of a sudden they're able to really accomplish the work that I shouldn't be accomplishing. I should be focused on lead gen and closing the next deal and charging 20% more than I did last time so that I can actually get the right things done and hire another team member.
Awesome. And what were your deliverables back then?
Really simple operational and growth help for doctors, just very generic. I was going to work with doctors like so many people do. And I was going to offer them some basic administrative operational help with a little bit of marketing help, building a website, setting up a social media account.
Gotcha. And so then how big did you get the agency? And then you decided, you know what, I want to help other agencies too. Because I've learned so much or created so many amazing processes and systems that freed up my time. When did you have that epiphany?
Yeah, that epiphany came when I was actually speaking at the ClickFunnels headquarters. Mm-hmm. I'm not a funnel hacker, don't even know how to build a funnel. But I was speaking at ClickFunnels headquarters to a group of their kind of top performers on how our agency ran, because at that point I was already working less than an hour a day. Mm-hmm. And our agency was scaling by itself, and our average deal size is about $126,000 for our average client size that we close. So we were just explaining our efficiency model to them. And they are the ones who said, dude, you got to have a mastermind. And I was like, guys, appreciate that, but I'm here teaching you how I don't want to work. And a mastermind sounds like more work. But several of them explained the process to me. And once my team and I tried it for one season, we found a lot of efficiencies. And so now we actually run 2 masterminds at a time simultaneously. And those masterminds take about 6 hours of my time a week, period. Because like everything else in business, you can find a system and you can find better team members who can help you grow. And it's been great. I love teaching now. I didn't know I did, but I love it. So we just teach people how we run our agency. That's how we do it.
Okay. So, I mean, I'm going to be brutally honest with you. When I hear I work 30 minutes a day, I work an hour a day, my BS meter goes through the roof. So what are the things, like you got to give us some more as to what are the things that enable you to work so few hours? Yep. And I know it wasn't always like this.
No. Oh goodness, no. So you got to work, you got to hustle, right? We all know that, but hustling the rest of your life is kind of ridiculous. So I read, the first thing I did was that really started changing the way that I thought through things operationally was reading The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. Mm-hmm. So many people, we've all read that, right? So many people have read that. So few people have actually done what he says to do. I remember raking leaves in my backyard, like at 8 o'clock one night, because it was just, I was working too much, and listening to that book on like Audible and thinking, I'm going to freaking do everything this guy says to do, because I'm so desperate to get my life back and not miss my kids growing up. Mm-hmm. When I started doing that, that's when I went from 16-hour days down to 4-hour days. And, now the reason I'm so efficient is because I have one senior team member who basically runs all of Elite Agency, the mastermind training, mm-hmm. one senior staff member who runs all of Senthold, our done-for-you service for doctors and surgeons. And they just report to me the things that they need critical decisions covered on for them. I've delegated, I've trained, I've done the right steps, we've built the SOPs, and it takes a couple of years to get that efficient, but we're super dialed in. And we don't take on clients or mastermind members who are out of the box. We take on people we know we can succeed for, and we only do that, which makes everything streamlined. And all the little problems that your staff members need to call you about and say, what about this? What about this? Those things don't come up anymore. I get the BS meter, but it works because we've simplified it. And it works because we have the guts to charge a little more than our competitors. So we're able to hire better team members that could actually run the business for us.
That's a key there, is that so many people charge too little and they don't realize that when you do that, you're inhibiting your ability to go out and get the A players that are essentially going to create more freedom for you.
Yeah, so true.
So
if you don't get the A players, you can't get the A clients because you're not doing A-level jobs.
Exactly. So let's talk about it, because I mean, $100,000 a year clients, those are some good paying clients. What are some of the deliverables on your end in the agency? Like, what are you churning out for them?
Yeah, so we're doing website, social media, all communication. I'd say probably 70 or 80% of the work that we do for our clients is outward bound marketing, communication, that kind of stuff.
Awesome.
Bringing in their ideal patient load.
Yeah.
The other 20-30% is a combination of a little bit of HR consulting, some operations or finance consulting, because I'm an entrepreneur, they're entrepreneurs, and so talking about that's easy, right? But most of it is marketing. And honestly, I'd say the competitors that we have in our space probably charge 20 to 30% what we charge.
Yeah, I would say probably.
but we're getting results, and everybody listening to this, just know that the pricing you should be landing on is based on the value you're bringing your clients. Clients don't want the hassle of changing marketing companies or whatever companies every 3 years because they're dissatisfied. They just want results.
Yep.
So get them results, charge them based on that, and everybody's happy.
I think another big point is that you are in a niche that can afford to pay you those rates. Because too often people pick a niche where the clients don't have any money. So you're never going to get to where you want to go. And then, of course, what they're selling is a very high ticket offer as well. So it's not too hard to show ROI. And it's totally okay to turn away clients that are just too small. You do have to have a floor where you're like, this just isn't a good fit. Like we say that all the time. If there's an agency out there that's charging, $1,000, $1,500, $2,000, even $2,500 for a website, we're like, this is not going to be a good fit for you. Because for us to make this work, we got to do 20 websites for you a month. I mean, that's a lot. And I doubt you're even selling that many.
So true.
Yeah.
So true. We've been there before, and we've made some colossal mistakes trying to chase the little deals or the people who didn't really fit our niche, or just trying to, you just get a little nervous one day. You're like, oh, I should take this client. Just got referred to him. I should do it. And you just shouldn't. Stay with what you know and do it well.
Yeah, exactly. So let's shift over to the hiring, because I'm really interested to learn about your hiring process. What are the steps of your hiring process that have helped you to find these amazing people?
Yeah, so we used to hire through staffing agencies, or there's y'all can hear the birds in the background, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, sorry about the noise in the background. But if you want to be free like I am right now, in the
sometimes you get the birds.
You get the birds, and this is how you get the birds. Is, I promise, I'm just shooting straight. This is what works. If you want to go to the park, this is how you do it. So with the hiring processes, we're really dialed in on leaning heavily on relationships we currently have in the industry to hire the right person. So we don't do any kind of outward bound, open-ended hiring processes where like we're jumping on Indeed or we're announcing that we're looking for someone in Facebook or something like that. We lean in on other professionals that we trust because they know people that they would trust. And if they trust them, we can trust them. Just like getting referrals for a new client, which we do a lot. We love asking for referrals. We ask for referrals for new team members. And then, sure, that team member isn't looking for a job because they're good. They already got a job.
Yeah.
You're going to have to pay a little more. You're going to have to compete. But, it's the same way with a client. You get a new client, you got to compete for the client. They already got a company they're working with. So we treat new team member acquisition, just like we treat client acquisition. Get out there, compete, find the best ones, and do your work.
Awesome. And then what is the screening process, or what are the steps of your hiring process that you use to kind of weed out and make sure that you're getting somebody who's a great fit for the business?
Yep. At this stage, I don't do that. Kimberly on our team does that, but the same process she uses, the process I used. We go through, we get 5 or 6, great qualified leads from people we trust. She interviews all of them, or you could, as the entrepreneur, anybody can do the same thing. Interview all of them and just have a quick 15-minute conversation. Hiring people, finding clients, and I hate to say it this way, but dating are the same things. In about 10 or 15 minutes of hanging out at a party, you see somebody you like to talk to a little more, you know if you're going to hang out with them again, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So get it over with, have a 5-minute conversation, and then make a list of the ones you want to hang out with more. And then we start down the process of having a second conversation with 2 or 3 of them. Then we get them into a group interview with our team, the top 1 or 2. We typically invite them to a group Zoom call. So we have 2 or 3 contestants for the job on the same call with my team, and they all interact and just hang out. We're looking for people who can play well together, who know what they're doing, know how to communicate, really know what they're doing, know how to communicate. And if they get all pushy and negative about the other interviewees on the phone call, they're out.
Yep.
I want positivity. Gotta know what to do, gotta know how to communicate. And then our team makes a recommendation to me. I have 1 meeting with that person, and then we make a decision.
Perfect. I love it. It's very similar to what we do.
Good. Yeah.
We're both in the same we have the same approach where the personality is way more important than the technical skills. It's gotta be the right person, the right values, and we're staffing designers and developers particularly. It can be a challenge to find those personalities that really care about the clients and don't just want to sit there and bang on the computer all day. So that's one of the things that's really helped us. So let's shift gears now. Let's talk about the coaching side of it, because that's really, really interesting. And that's actually how we met. Is I saw something online. Maybe you sent me an ad or something, or you added me to a group. I think I might have added me to a group. So let's talk about the coaching and the things that you're doing to help other agency owners.
So we coach in 2 ways. One is, and this is kind of where it started from when we were at ClickFunnels doing that whole conversation. We just show people who have agencies, already have a little bit of staffing. We show people how to take that agency to the next level while working less.
What does that next level usually look like for them, or what does that mean to them?
Yeah, most people join our agency coaching program when they're, either stuck at that. This is kind of interesting. A lot of entrepreneurs get stuck at that $200,000 to $400,000 mark, or they get stuck right under $1 million annually. And regardless of what their profit margin is, that's just top end what's coming in the doors. And that's typically because the entrepreneur themselves are the bottleneck, or their systems or their team. So once they're getting some traction, they know what they're doing, they're serving clients, they're making money, they come into our program, and our goal is to typically double their take-home money, their profit margins, which is increasing revenue and decreasing costs, being more efficient, double their take-home money, and cut their time in half over the course of about 3 to 4 months. All right. We have a 12-month mastermind process. Then the first 3 to 4 months, we want more money and less time going on. That way we can spend the rest of that year together in our groups where they can really make an impact and build a sustainable long-term model that fits them and their lifestyle and whatever they want to do in the world, right? It's not about us. There's so much more impact we can have. So that's what we get into.
You know what I love about what you just said?
What?
Is that it wasn't just about getting more clients, because that's what most of the agency coaches out there, they're like, we're going to show you how to increase revenue. I mean, obviously that's important, but what's most important is what you're taking home, which you mentioned about, and the operations side of it and how you can control your costs. Because there's nothing more frustrating when you sell more and then you look at, your profit at the end of the month and it hasn't gone up at all, right? And you can't give yourself a raise, or you can't hire the people that you need to hire. So I love that you talk about that side of the business, because that to me is more important than getting more clients.
It is to me as well. And what prompted a lot of that journey for me was I did a podcast 7 or 8 years ago called I Share Hope. And I interviewed 125 leaders from around the world, from all genres, like heads of state, Olympians, crazy people that I'm surprised even talk to me about the concept of hope and the topic of hope. And one of the things that struck me in that and I was hustling, working a ton then, was that none of the older, more mature ones talked about how much money or success or position in life they had.
Mm-hmm.
They talked about the relationships and the experiences. And that made me realize I got to build a machine that creates enough money where I don't have to worry about it, and enough time where I can have relationships and experiences and invest in those things. And so that's what really started tuning in. And that's what we teach in our elite agency mastermind is how to act. And in our Facebook group, which is completely free, we teach how to actually get your life back, get your profitability up, so you can do the stuff that's really going to be lasting and meaningful for you when you're sitting in the rocking chair in the nursing home, right? That's what I'm thinking about. I hope it's a long way off, but I want to be happy that day, not just this day, you know?
What would you say is the most common thing that is keeping agencies from advancing that they don't see themselves? Because typically what I've seen is that agency owners think it's one thing, it's really something else.
Oh yeah, it's self-awareness. Most of us just simply don't have the self-awareness to see that we're the problem.
Mm-hmm.
We have a whole conversation around my team tables and in our everything else we teach that's, boss management problems, employee problems, finance problems, system problems. All of those are boss problems.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm not willing to live in the structure, to be on time, to do my notes after a sales call, to hire the right person, to communicate effectively, to not bring my personal crap to work on a Monday and talk about my bad week. If I'm not willing to do that, then why would I expect anyone else on my team to do that?
Exactly.
Why do you think? Right, we got to step up.
Yeah. Why do you think that's such a common issue with agency owners? And maybe it's an issue with all business owners, but I only work with agency owners. And it's been a problem for me too. I've struggled with those things. And then as soon as I recognized that I was the problem, I was the bottleneck, I was the deficiency, and I worked on those things consistently. That was the key. When I did them consistently, that's when my business really started to take off.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, why do you think some of the agencies struggle?
I think the real struggle there is because, in the 9-to-5 corporate life, we have somebody else speaking into our life pretty regularly, telling us we need to tune up this or that. When we're the boss, all of a sudden we lose that accountability, and we lose the capacity for us to really know that we're wrong. And unfortunately, we don't see that very well. So, get a good therapist or join a group of people who'll be honest with you. But really, I think it's because we don't have accountability.
Mm-hmm.
And I've enjoyed that structure in mastermind groups and coaching groups that I've been a part of as a student. It's been the accountability and the sounding board of other like-minded individuals who really have helped me grow the most. It's not the coach, never. It's never me in my programs. It's the other people in the group that encourage each other. We just need each other so much.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it's hard to put a blanket, or pinpoint a blanket feature on it. I can say, or what I see is a common thing is that, when you get to $500,000 or like you're close to $1 million or even like 250,000, 300,000, there's a level of ego that comes with that for many people. That's how it was for me. It's like, oh man, I built this business and I'm so great. And that's really when you're the most vulnerable, because you start to believe your own BS, and that's when you really need somebody to smack you around and be like, hey, all right, now like you made it to college, right? You made it to the college level. If you really want to go to the pros, this is what you got to do. And if you don't have somebody to kind of let you know that, hey, this was great, let's celebrate it for a day, but tomorrow you got to get back in the gym and start working to be that professional Olympian, Hall of Fame. Like there's so many more levels above you. Then if you don't have that accountability, like you mentioned, then you're kind of always going to be stuck in that level. And then, eventually the blame starts to set in, and then you kind of spiral down, and then you're stagnant. So
I couldn't have said it better.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, we're almost out of time. And it's been a really, really good interview. We're going to talk again for sure. So what's the best way for people to get in contact with you?
Super easy. You can join our Facebook community. I don't do hardly anything online. I don't build a huge email list. I don't have a funnel for anybody to go to. We have a free Facebook group called Elite Agency Inner Circle.
Mm-hmm.
And I simply go live in that group 3 times a week to answer questions. And so everybody's trying to grow. Everybody's trying to get their life back. Everybody's trying to get their profitability up. So fine. We're just there together. We don't market to each other in there. There's no sales pitches. We don't drop links. We're there to actually help. So get in there, let yourself be known, and ask questions. And 3 times a week, we compile the questions and we just absolutely teach and answer and show people how to move.
Fantastic. And who would be the perfect person to reach out to you today, Chris?
You know, it's the agency owner who is struggling with the life pieces of running an agency. They know what they do. They know who they work with, but they just can't seem to get it all done at the same time. And they're frustrated constantly, worried about money, worried about time, trying to make everybody at home happy. That's who we love working with. Let's get that right.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks so much for going on the show today. And to all of our listeners, thank you all for tuning in today. And make sure that you return next Thursday and every Thursday for the next episode of Operation Agency Freedom. Bye, guys.